Hi, Jason Knott with CE Pro, and today we are talking about the home theater market with Richard Litofsky, co-founder and CEO at MadVR Labs. Hi, Richard.
How you doing, Jason? Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. All right, let's jump right into it. For those who may not be familiar, tell us a little bit about MadVR Labs and the origin of the company.
Sure, yeah, no, absolutely be happy to. I co-founded the company with my partner, Matthias Rowan. Matthias started MadVR video processing algorithms really kind of in the underground enthusiast market about 10, 12 years ago. All these great algorithms and things for doing upscaling and tone mapping more, in recent years, really a great pioneer developing these algorithms. And so I'm a serial entrepreneur and a diehard videophile, and I had a need for this product myself about 4 or 5 years ago. Finished up on a really exciting theater that had been a lifelong dream to put together. And I was running into some issues myself with HDR and upscaling and the challenges that come along with that, and was deciding on what to do about it, looking around in the marketplace, and ultimately decided, hey, I think there's a great opportunity here, not just to have a video processor that I want to have for myself, but something that the rest of the market could really appreciate and enjoy. And so I knew about MadVR for many years, and I reached out to Matthias and introduced myself when we got to talking, and that's how the company origins were founded. That was probably about probably about 3 years ago. And so we did a lot of planning up front, a lot of development to create the first prototype. We started selling a little over a year ago, and fast forward to today, we've got dealers in throughout the U.S. and throughout the world. We're in 22 countries. We've sold hundreds of units.
It's always a winning combination when you can bring somebody who's at the user level, such as yourself, who really knows what the expectations and what the needs are, combined with that engineering technical expertise. It sounds like a good marriage. So, all right, let's talk specifically about the product itself, the MadVR MV processor. Tell us about that product and what exactly it does.
Yeah, sure. So the MadVR MV is a real-time video processor. It's designed for use in high-end home cinema. Its real advantages are, the dynamic tone mapping for HDR is one of the most significant things the product is used for and admired for. Also 4K upscaling, as well as detail enhancements, artifact reduction, aspect ratio control, so managing black bars, scope screens, calibration, those types of things. So I can dig into any one of those topics that you're interested in talking about. But the idea is you put the MV in line, so typically it goes right before your projector, and it looks in real time and finds ways to optimize that video quality, still striving for director's intent all the way, but overcoming the challenges that projectors and displays typically have on their own when it comes to things such as HDR tone mapping and upscaling and so forth.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because I know so many integrators think, oh, I don't need a processor because it's already something built into the projector, it's built into the TV, but there really is a need for this processing, especially when you get into HDR10 and these other factors.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And it does come up, and it also is an interesting angle too. Is sometimes people say, well, I have this super high end projector, so I guess there's probably not as much of a need for an MV. And the answer is no. It's all the same. The displays have, the tricks involved in video processing for HDR tone mapping. Part of our secret sauce is that not only do we have Matthias's proprietary algorithms, but we also have a massive GPU behind the power. That provides orders of magnitude of processing power beyond what you typically get out of a display or an FPGA chip. And so that really kind of opens up that potential. So it's sort of like with audio when it comes to separates, an AVR versus an AVP. An AVR can be great for mainstream If you want to push the envelope, typically, it's too much to ask sometimes for an AVR to be able to do all the processing and all the power and all that in one box. So this is the same kind of concept where you're effectively, for lack of a better term, outsourcing the video processor to a dedicated box that's got all the horsepower and features and optimizations, and kind of leaving what we do best to us and letting the display manufacturers focus on what they do best. And that's together really kind of creates that. So from an HDR standpoint, some of the biggest challenges that our dealers and integrators hear all the time are, my HDR looks too dark. The customers complaining because the 1080p Blu-ray looks better than the HDR version. And, they say, well, there's all this hype about HDR, and, you sold me a system that has HDR capabilities and all this, but then when I watch it, like, I don't want to watch it. I'm just watching the 1080p movie because it looks better. So other issues like HDR, a lot of times you get the whites get crushed. I can show you some examples, that we can add in here to be able to see what are some examples of HDR getting crushed, the bright levels getting crushed, the black levels getting crushed. Those are the types of things that we resolve. Details being lost in the highlights in the bright areas of the image. So these are some of the types of things that we do when it comes to HDR tone mapping, to really be able to bring home an image that is like, wow, now it's HDR like in the commercial cinema, but in your home.
So if you could isolate just a few of the very unique features of the MV that make it different from anything else that's out there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So a couple things come to mind. One is that MadVR MV is a modern day platform based on modern day hardware. We're the only standalone video processor that currently features HDMI 2.1 output. So that is really great for future-proofing a system. We also do upscaling to 8K and output to 8K. That's a unique feature of our product, taking advantage of that HDMI 2.1 output as well. We also have a lot of AI-based algorithms, which is unique to our product. So being able to have a real-time video processor using AI to be able to really push these algorithms and deliver levels of quality that weren't possible years ago based on not having enough compute power. By having that dedicated GPU in our system, we're really able to push levels of new performance that weren't there before. We have a super large 3D LUT gamut. So we support internally up to 256 point cube, which is roughly 16.7 million colors of interpolated results when it comes to calibration, compared to, say, a 17-point standard cube, which you would find typically elsewhere, which is only about 5,000 points, versus 16.7 million. So we also have some really unique features as well, such as geometry control. Geometry control is great for fitting the image to a curved screen, for example. We're starting to see it pick up in interesting curved screens out there, and being able to have the image fit that screen perfectly. Another big use for that too is removing barrel distortion from A lenses. So typically our dealers have to overscan their image by a few inches on all sides, so that the bow can't be seen. And so what we did was we're able to completely square up that image and keep it, unwarped, if you will, by having everything perfectly square, despite the barrel effect that you typically receive. And that could be anywhere from mild to strong, depending too on things such as what anamorphic lens it is and what your throw distance is, those types of things. So that's really big. Another great thing for geometry control is architectural installation flexibility. So you have a high-end job. Sometimes a dealer cannot put the projector where they ideally want it. And so this gives flexibility for being able to do things for creative mounting, mirrors, angles, that type of thing. We also have our aspect ratio detection is extremely fast. So being able to detect black bars, deliver constant image height. We have features that are unique to the product, such as subtitle management. Without going into all the detail, typically you have an image that is zoomed out when it is on a scope screen to fill the movie. So it's window box to begin with, and the lens is zoomed out to fill that whole screen. And when you do that, that's all well and good until you wind up with subtitles in the black bars, for example. And now your subtitles are off the screen. So in real time, we have options to be able to bring back your subtitles. Same thing happens for the on-screen display elements. So for example, if you're watching Apple TV and someone says, hey, how much time is left in this movie? If you're in scope and you push that button for pause to see that time bar or the info bar, it's under masking and typically unreadable. So MV will just bring it right up into the screen, and when you clear it, whoop, it's gone, and you're back up and running. So those are unique features to our product as well. And so between that and my partner he pioneered dynamic tone mapping, so we have nearly a dozen patents that are pending. So there's a lot of really unique technologies and algorithms that are in our product that we're especially proud of. We also, just a couple other little things to throw in, we've got digital convergence control that is coming, as well as one of the most anticipated features that we plan to roll out this year, which is what we expect to be the world's first AI-based motion interpolation. So we're really excited about that, and so are our dealers.
Wow. Look,
Yeah.
now the feature set there is just incredible. That's awesome. So with so many features and so many of them, as you're talking about with the visual acuity and things of that nature, what's the best way for an integrator to showcase or demo the benefits of the NV to their customers?
Seeing is believing. And oftentimes our dealers are just speccing NVs into the job. The homeowner may not care about the details and want to get into the weeds. It's like, hey, here's your package. This is your projector. This is your seating. This is your speaker. These are your amps. And they might give them a few different choices, between, obviously, when it comes to things like seating or that, this is the screen we recommend. This is the video processor we recommend. And it's just and the end user just loves the image on the screen. Other times, the end user wants to be more involved. Tell me about this. Why do I need that? So we selfishly, for us and our dealers, have pre-programmed buttons right on the remote control to be able to do A/B comparisons. So for example, if you click the green button, it will turn our dynamic tone mapping off and pass the HDR along to the display. So the display will then turn on its HDR tone mapping. So just at the click of a button, you can go from one image to the other and back and forth. So oftentimes the dealers will pause, they'll have a scene, they'll hit the button, and then they'll go back, and then the customer will react to that and say, wow. We've had plenty of dealers, and we love when this happens, that in the beginning get a little bit skeptical. And they say, oh, come on, are you doing something when I push this green button? Is that really, because these differences are too large, like, come on now. And we tell them, okay, let's have some more fun with it. Go ahead and just bypass the NV, right? Because that's another way to do it. Just literally remove it from the chain, take the HDMI cable out and send it straight to your display or your projector. And then they see, wow, oh my goodness, this is exactly the same thing it looked like through NV. And then they really, can just rely on that feature without having that little ounce of skepticism, in there, which is always healthy. So then we also have other buttons on there. So for example, our highlight recovery, which restores details that are otherwise lost in the brightest areas of the image. So that's one of the unique features about our product, in that you can avoid the need for things like highlight recovery mostly by lowering the overall brightness output. But then you're completely compressing the whole dynamic range, and you're looking at an image that is darker and dimmer than it needs to be just to preserve those highlights. So with our highlight recovery, you're able to run that full wide scale, bright, vivid image like the director intended for you to see. But at home, even when you're using a projector that, may only be delivering, 15, 20, 25 foot Lamberts, whatever it is, which doesn't sound like too low, but in the world of HDR, especially on these large screens. We need that brightness to bring it up. So anyway, you have a button on there that brings back the highlight recovery, turns that on and off, so you can watch the details in front of your eyes disappear and reappear as you go back and forth. Same thing for our contrast recovery feature. People can see how much dimension it adds to the image, how it kind of clears up a haze that's over the image otherwise that you probably don't realize until you see it cleaned up. And so, these buttons are right on the remote. So we actually provide our dealers with a set of videos, demo clips that are specific scenes. So it makes it very easy for them. They don't, eventually everyone kind of finds their own footing and their own way they like to do the demo. Oh, this is my favorite scene in this movie. And they'll come to me and say, hey, you guys should add this into your demo thing. Like we always show this, so there's things like that. But off the bat, we make it very easy. They play the demo clips, they push pause on each one, they show A/B comparisons, they move down the line, and then everyone is happy.
I love that you did that demo clips, because I was going to ask you what if you had a favorite. So it sounds like you really honed in on some of the best sequences in movies. What about sports? I know a lot of times integrators will want to show the processing power with that jagged line of a football field. Is that conducive for this too?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's great. I'm glad you brought that up. So one of the key things that our product does as well is our artifact reduction. Broadcast television, is notorious even at 1080p sometimes for having compression artifacts, seeing things like the jaggy lines, mosquito noise, things like that. So we have features for anti-ringing, de-ringing, reducing mosquito noise, removing grain, compression artifact reductions of all sorts. I think I might have mentioned debanding as well. And so then you kind of get into the upscaling aspects right now. So you're watching a football game at 1080p. Our upscaling is just sensational. And so you're able to see all of that upscaled at 4K at a new level.
Tell us about some of the control capabilities of MV, in particular, how it integrates with third-party control systems.
Yeah, sure. So obviously for our dealers and integrators, control systems and automation it's all about that. So we really made it a point to provide support for all the best control systems out there. Right over the network through IP, we have support for Crestron, RTI, Control4, and Savant. Right, so you just download, get them up and running. I was actually on a call once with the dealer that got the RTI downloaded and installed in 7 minutes while we were talking, got the whole thing set up and said, okay, let's keep going. So I didn't know it would actually be that easy to do, but apparently it is. Those are all big. The other thing that ties into that as well, I should mention that MV has a very flexible and unique profile system to be able to set kind of presets and that whole concept, but we went about it a bit differently. Traditionally manufacturers use kind of the memory bank things, and you're probably familiar with these, right? Like, hey, these are all my settings for source 1, and I'm going to save those to memory bank A. And these are all my settings for source 2. I'm going to save those to memory bank B. We use a totally different approach with that, and we don't have time to really go into all those details, unfortunately. But the gist of it is it's a hierarchy-based system, so it allows the flexibility to create whatever kind of presets and profiles that you want, and then be able to easily recall them without having to redefine each thing for each source. So the bottom line is you can have all your profiles set up as complex or as simple as you want. Then you have your profile system tell NV, hey, give me profile for source 1, give me profile for display 1, display 2, whatever it is. And then within the NV profile system, you're able to change it so that later, if you want to change like one global setting, you don't have to go back and save them all to all the different presets. The other thing I should mention in terms of integration and just rollout, obviously we know dealers' time on job is very important. They don't want to be spending any more time out on the job site than they need. So Envy has another unique ability, which is to create a setup how you like for your jobs and be able to easily roll that out on each future job. So you get your one Envy, you set up, these are my 3 most popular sources we're using on all the jobs. This is how I want Envy to control or the settings I want to use for those profiles. And then they're able to take all those, put it onto a master image. And when they do their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th job, they're able to either on the field or before they go out in the field in 30 seconds, just load that complete configuration back and clone what they do for all their installs, so that when we're on the job, it's literally as easy as taking the HDMI cable that would normally go straight to projector, sending that into Envy, and then sending the output of Envy to the projector, pressing the on button, and their entire setup is done.
All right, fantastic. Richard Litofsky, thank you for joining CE Pro today.
Hey, thank you so much, Jason, for having me. I really appreciate it.